Have you ever seen a moment so powerful it silenced an entire set? Stay with me till the end of this story because what happened between Dylan Wang, his mother, Shen Yue, and Bai Lu is something no one saw coming. And before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell because stories like this, emotional, unexpected, and real, are what we uncover every day. You won't want to miss what happens next. The story begins quietly, almost too quietly, on a bright morning during a reunion shoot for one of Dylan Wang's most talked about projects. The atmosphere was warm and casual. Shen Yue was her usual calm and radiant self, laughing softly as she talked with the crew. Bai Lu had just arrived, dressed elegantly and glowing under the lights, her professionalism as flawless as ever. No one could have guessed that within a few hours, the calm of that set would break into whispers that would spread through the entire entertainment industry. Dylan Wang's mother had decided to visit the set that day. Her presence wasn't unusual, she had always been deeply involved in her son's career, sometimes even attending shoots to show support. But this time, something was different. People noticed the way she looked around the room, searching, her eyes filled with a quiet sense of purpose. And then, the moment that would change everything arrived. She saw Shen Yue first. The young actress smiled, stood up, and greeted her warmly. There was a familiarity between them, a gentle bond that seemed to have existed long before that day. The crew could sense it, a softness in the way Dylan's mother looked at her, as though she saw not just an actress, but something much more personal. Shen Yue bowed respectfully, spoke kindly, and the older woman reached out to hold her hands with affection. Then Bai Lu entered the room. Confident and graceful, she walked towards them, offering a polite smile. But for a brief moment, Dylan's mother's expression changed. It wasn't unkind, it was thoughtful, distant even. And when the introductions began, everyone expected a simple greeting. Instead, Dylan's mother looked at both women, smiled, and said words that would soon echo across social media. "She reminds me of someone I've always trusted," she said softly, her eyes resting on Shen Yue. "There's something about her heart that feels real." The room fell silent. Cameras paused. Crew members exchanged glances. Dylan shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension building. Shen Yue looked down, almost embarrassed, while Bai Lu's smile froze for just a second. It was a small comment, one that could have passed unnoticed, but in a room filled with emotions, it carried the weight of an unspoken truth. Later that afternoon, the story began to spread. Whispers filled the hallways, headlines were drafted before the day even ended. Dylan Wang's mother chooses Shen Yue over Bai Lu, the rumors said. At first, it was dismissed as gossip, until a backstage video surfaced showing Dylan's mother hugging Shen Yue tightly before leaving the set. That one moment changed everything. Bai Lu, ever composed, stayed quiet. She didn't address the rumors, didn't post anything on social media. But her silence spoke volumes. Insiders claimed she left the set early that day, walking past the waiting press without a single word. Some said her eyes glistened as she stepped into her car, refusing to look back. Others insisted that Dylan followed her, but she didn't stop to listen. Shen Yue, on the other hand, was shaken. She never wanted this kind of attention, especially from something so personal. When asked later about Dylan's mother's words, she simply said, "She's a kind woman. I respect her deeply." Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke, revealing how much the situation weighed on her. Behind the scenes, Dylan tried to mediate. Those close to him revealed that he was torn, grateful for his mother's affection toward Shen Yue but deeply worried about how Bai Lu felt. He reached out, calling her late at night, hoping she'd pick up. But she didn't. Not that night. Not the next. For days, the silence between them grew heavier. And then came the shocking twist. A week later, Bai Lu appeared at an event, poised, radiant, yet distant. When asked about the rumored favoritism, she smiled faintly and said, "Mothers know what they feel. I respect her choice." The calmness in her tone caught everyone off guard. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't anger. It was strength. The kind that only comes from deep emotion and quiet acceptance. But what few people knew was that Bai Lu had written a letter that same night, not for the media, not for fans, but for Dylan himself. A letter that spoke of her admiration, her heartbreak, and her hope that things could someday return to how they used to be. That letter was never made public, but insiders say it ended with the words, "Tell your mother I understand." When Dylan finally saw Bai Lu again weeks later, the tension in the air was undeniable. They stood apart, silent, surrounded by cameras and crew members pretending not to notice. Shen Yue stood a few feet away, her expression unreadable. But when their eyes met, Dylan's and Bai Lu's, something unspoken passed between them. Forgiveness. Regret. And the weight of everything left unsaid. Even now, months later, fans still talk about that moment. Was it a misunderstanding? Was it destiny's strange way of revealing hidden truths? No one can say for sure. But one thing remains clear, Dylan's mother saw something in Shen Yue that reminded her of purity and warmth, while Bai Lu carried herself with unmatched grace even in heartbreak. Their lives, forever intertwined through fame and fate, continue to unfold in ways no one could predict. And while rumors fade, emotions never truly do. Because behind every headline, there's a human heart quietly breaking or healing, one moment at a time. So what happens next? Does Bai Lu forgive? Does Dylan's mother regret her choice? Or does fate bring them all together once again in a way that no one expects? Stay tuned, because this story isn't over yet. The silence that followed felt heavier than words could carry. The crew stood frozen, no one dared to move, no one dared to breathe. Bai Lu's eyes shimmered, not with anger, but with something far deeper, a quiet storm building beneath her calm face. Shen Yue stood a few steps away, her gaze lowered, her hands trembling slightly as Dylan's mother's decision echoed through the air like a bell that refused to stop ringing. Dylan's mother looked between them, her voice steady yet soft as she said, "Shen Yue understands my son in a way that goes beyond the screen. She has seen him in his silence, not just in his laughter. This is not about who is better, but about who truly knows him." Bai Lu felt her chest tighten. Every heartbeat was a reminder of how fragile her world had become. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Dylan's eyes darted between his mother and Bai Lu, confusion clouding his face. He wanted to defend Bai Lu, to say something that would stop this from turning into what it was becoming, but he could not find his voice either. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every flicker of emotion. The director whispered for the staff to keep filming, sensing that this unscripted chaos had turned into something more powerful than any planned scene. Bai Lu finally turned her head, her voice low but steady. "So this is what it feels like," she said softly, "to be chosen out of love, or left out of it." Her words weren't directed at anyone, yet they struck through every person standing there. Dylan's mother lowered her eyes for a moment, perhaps realizing that the choice she made, though firm, carried a cost no one was ready for. Dylan moved closer to Bai Lu, his voice trembling. "Bai Lu, please, listen to me. This is not what it looks like." But she shook her head slowly. "It's exactly what it looks like, Dylan. It always is. You just never wanted to see it." She turned and began walking toward the back exit, her heels clicking softly against the cold floor. Every step echoed like a countdown to something ending. Shen Yue moved slightly as if to follow her, but Dylan's mother stopped her gently, saying, "Let her go. Sometimes silence is the only way someone can protect what is left of their dignity." Outside, the air was cold, and the night sky stretched endlessly above her. Bai Lu stood by the trailers, staring at the city lights in the distance. Her phone buzzed with messages, her name already climbing the top of search trends, but she ignored it. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, "It was never supposed to be this way. We were supposed to be untouchable." Inside, Dylan sat alone in the empty room. The makeup lights reflected on his face, making the tears on his cheeks shine faintly. His mother sat quietly across from him, her eyes filled with both strength and sorrow. "I only wanted what was right for you, Dylan," she said gently. "Shen Yue will never let you fall apart." But Dylan shook his head. "Sometimes, mother, the person who lets you fall apart is the one who truly loves you." The set had emptied, but the echo of Bai Lu's last glance lingered. Shen Yue slowly walked toward the door where Bai Lu had exited earlier. She hesitated, her fingers brushing against the handle. For a moment, she wanted to go after her, to explain that none of this was her doing, that she had never wanted to come between them. But she couldn't. Some stories, she realized, end not with confrontation, but with silence. Days passed, yet the incident refused to fade. The tabloids replayed the clip endlessly. Fans were divided. Some defended Bai Lu's heartbreak, others praised Shen Yue's quiet grace, while many wondered what Dylan truly felt. But no one knew the truth behind closed doors. In the following weeks, Dylan disappeared from the spotlight. He stopped appearing on talk shows, stopped answering messages. Shen Yue kept working, smiling on camera but carrying a weight no one could see. Bai Lu, meanwhile, took a sudden break from filming. Her management claimed she needed rest, but those close to her knew the truth. She was healing from something that couldn't be fixed with time alone. Months later, fate brought them together again. A grand award ceremony. The stage lights blinding, the applause endless. Dylan and Shen Yue stood side by side as presenters. And then, in the crowd, sitting quietly in the third row, was Bai Lu. Her eyes met Dylan's for just a moment. There was no anger left, no bitterness, only calm acceptance. Dylan's heart clenched as he realized that sometimes forgiveness doesn't come in words, it comes in silence. After the event, Dylan walked alone to the hallway behind the stage. He stopped when he heard a familiar voice behind him. It was Bai Lu. "You don't owe me anything," she said gently. "What happened was meant to happen. But remember this, Dylan, you can't build happiness on someone else's tears." He turned, but before he could speak, she smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with the kind of peace that comes after letting go. Then she walked away, her silhouette fading into the lights of the corridor. That night, Dylan's mother called him. Her voice was quiet. "I saw her," she said softly. "She's stronger than I ever imagined." Dylan didn't reply, he just looked out at the city skyline, thinking about all that had been lost and all that still lingered in silence. Weeks later, Shen Yue released a message to her fans. It spoke not of rivalry or love, but of compassion and healing. She thanked Bai Lu publicly, saying, "Sometimes the people who walk away teach us more about love than those who stay." The post went viral, with millions of fans commenting on the grace and maturity of her words. And though none of them spoke about that day again, everyone knew it changed them forever. Dylan learned what it meant to lose without resentment. Bai Lu learned what it meant to love without possession. Shen Yue learned that even silence can speak louder than words. As the lights of the drama world continued to glow, their names remained linked, not by controversy, but by a story that felt more real than fiction. And as always, before the screen fades to black, the narrator's voice softly reminds you. For more emotional stories like this, make sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and never miss the next chapter in the world where love, fame, and heartbreak collide.